Hi, this is Alan from Scotsall, and today I'm going to talk you through replacing the DC jack plug on a laptop. I think we've all seen the issue where you've got to wiggle the plug just to get the power to come on to charge the battery. Okay, so let's begin. First off, you should check that the problem is not with the power supply itself. If you have a look at this power supply here, you'll see that this one here has the green light on it to indicate that the power supply is getting power itself. Not all power supplies have lights on them, so this isn't a total yes or no answer, this one. If there is no green light but there should be a green light on the power supply, then what you need to check is you need to check this cable here. This is the cable that disconnects. See here. Now there's three different types of cable that's commonly used in laptops, this being the first one. This is called, well, the real name is a IEC C5 connector, which is also known as the cloverleaf connector. If you go into any PC shop, electrical store, and ask for that, they will refer to it as a cloverleaf connector. The other two types that you get, main types, you have this type of connection here, which is commonly referred to as a figure of 8 connector. Its real name is a IEC C7 socket. And the third and probably most common type would be this one here, which real name is a IEC C13 socket. It's commonly referred to as the kettle lead. So if you go in and ask for any of them at your local electrical stores, first thing obviously to check is the fuse is not blown. So try another cable. The fuse you access by just leaving off here. Try replacing a fuse. 5 amps is normally ample. So if you are getting the light, or if your power supply doesn't have a light, next thing to check is the actual DC plug itself. So this is the plug that actually goes into the laptop. You'll see with the design of this one here, it has the metal outer, which is your negative, and it has a small pin on the inside, which is the positive. So the way to test this, if I can just move this, make sure that your power supply, your voltmeter is set to the 20, and you need to be looking for the voltage that matches the bottom of the power supply itself. And I'll stick a picture on here. And all you do with this one is you touch your negative electrode against the outside of the case, and your positive electrode, you put it in and you just touch the centre there. And you see there that that's reading, sorry, it's quite hard to actually get that. That is reading 19. And that's it, so we know then that this power supply is working fine. One thing you need to remember, while you have the positive on the positive node of the socket and your negative is there, do not touch the metal of the two electrodes together. Now I've disconnected this power supply, but that will spark and it will short out the power supply if you touch, you know, your two electrodes together like that while they're also in the DC jack. Very important. The easiest way of determining which type of jack connector you require is to look at the model number here. This machine is it's an Acer Aspire 5750Z. You don't normally need to worry about the large number. Now you're going to start removing the casing from the laptop. You also need to remove the likes of any batteries, CD drives, so we'll go through that just now. The trick, all you're going to do is when you flip it over, pretty much look for any screws that you find, and you're just going to use your start screwdriver to go through and remove all the screws in sequence. Normally it's just small latches at either side of the battery that you separate, and this one actually requires you to use a pen or in this case a screwdriver, slide it across, put your thumb under and lever the battery all the way out, and that's it. Remove the memory by pushing these two clips apart. So the memory pops out like that. Just hold it at the edge and slide it out. So I have to remove any wireless network adapters just by using your finger to pry off these connectors. See that one? And then there'll normally be one screw, or it will be similar to the memory where there's a pry off. Now you're just going to gently pry the case apart. You do get specific tools to assist with this, but I think quite often your nails more than suffice. This is a pry tool here. You get plastic ones as well that do less damage to the case, but again, your nails aren't going to do any damage to the case, and you can feel the point where it's ready to go as well. You will of course be gentle, as you will find the odd screw hidden away. On some models you will get release catches on the keyboard, they're very hard to see. You've got to be careful when trying to pry these, as quite often keys will come off and they're not easy to repair. So you just separate the pry parts. The trick with these is to push them back and then pry the keyboard over. Again, it's going to be very hard to see this. So push it back, down, pry the keyboard up. Once you're sure you've got all them, the keyboard should just lift off. Okay, now with this type of connector, holes and ribbon connectors, all you do with these is gently, using a nail, just ever so gently separate, just move away from the board. You always move towards the cable itself. This will allow the cable to just gently slide out. and again you will find some screws normally. Quite often you get memory located under the keyboard as well. Cable. The other type of connector that you get is one of these cabled connectors. These simply just slide out. Always try and pull by the plastic and not by the cable itself, or you may dislodge the cable from the plastic clip. You quite often find these black and white cables. They are the antennae for the Wi-Fi that runs up and around the screen. And there we have removed the motherboard. On this system, the jack plug is separated. You see it here, and connects to the motherboard via a cable here. So simply on this one, it's just a case of lifting out the socket and putting your new socket in, and then you put the whole thing back together, reversing the steps that we've done, and you should be good to go. A tip I forgot to mention there: whenever you are removing the motherboard, if you have a VGA socket, quite often you will lever up at the opposite end from the VGA socket and slide out, otherwise the VGA socket itself will protrude and catch on the plastic. One thing to check also, quite often screws will go through the top casing. So you can see here, the two screws that I just put in there were incorrect. These should actually go through the top casing. So it's quite handy to keep this nearby to, just periodically check that you're not covering up holes. Obviously you can see here, this one here, there is a screw there, which means that is incorrect. This one here, there is no screw, so that is correct. To refit the ribbon type connectors, just ensure that the plastic is still slid away, the black plastic here is slid away from the white plastic. Your cable slides in until you don't see the contacts anymore, and then it's just a case of pushing the black connector back in. Memory is reinstalled, pretty much exactly reverse of how it's removed. One thing to note is the small notch here needs to line up with the space in the gold fingers here. On this machine the label is facing down the way. You insert the memory at about a 30-degree angle, you slide it in gently, ensuring the contact's made along all the fingers, and then slight bit of pressure on the top, push it straight down till you hear the click, and that's it. It's quite often an idea to check the system at this point. After the check proves that the laptop is now working, it's just a case of finishing off putting the screws, putting the keyboard back on, and that's you good to go.